An emotional visit to Israel today for an Australian Aboriginal family to honor their grandfather, Aboriginal activist William Cooper, who stood up against the Nazi regime protesting the persecution of Jews in Germany. The stop at his memorial in the Holy Land is one of many for the father and son, which will culminate in a tribute to the Indigenous Australian soldiers who perished in the battle for Beersheba in World War I. Our Tracy Alexander met them on their visit to Israel.
Retracing his footsteps, Aboriginal elder 89-year-old Alfred Turner is a long way from home. Once again in Israel, this time with his son, to visit this plaque where his grandfather's name, William Cooper, has been enshrined.
Oh, it means a lot to be here with Dad and everyone that's come here, especially to see William Cooper's name on the wall. I've heard so much about it over the years, I just haven't had a chance to get it, but finally come here to Israel. Wow.
The Turners' history with Israel is a long one.
He grew up in a time that a lot of racism and his people were dying around. Lots of deaths because they couldn't look after themselves. The land was being fenced off.
Meantime, thousands of miles away in Nazi Germany, November 1938, Kristallnacht struck the Jewish community.
He realised that this was an act of racism, and he knew what racism felt like. He knew what it smelt like. He wanted to, he was sure the world would be up in arms and there'd be an uproar. They would stop this Hitler bloke from a genocide.
But when nothing was done, Aboriginal rights activist William Cooper stood up in defiance.
So he got his group of Indigenous activists and they marched on the German consulate in Collins Street, Melbourne. But when the Nazi soldiers saw who were in charge of the security of the embassy, saw this group coming and realised what this appointment was, the appointment was cancelled, the doors were slammed.
To make that appointment, to march on the consulate, wow. Yeah, overwhelming.
The very fact that there was a man at the age of 77 who didn't enjoy rights in his own country, that he heard about what was happening to the Jews, that he walked 12 kilometres from his home to the German consulate in Melbourne, I mean, that takes a special type of person. And I think it's absolutely remarkable, and it's a memory that we salute.
Do you think he identified with the Jewish cause at the time?
I think so, yes, because he lived it.
Alf Turner, otherwise known as Uncle Boydie, has dedicated much of his life to honour the memory of his grandfather, recreating that march to the German consulate in 2010, this time with a happy ending, the German consulate agreeing to receive the petition.
The journey for Uncle Boydie doesn't end here. Next, he'll lay a wreath at the 100th anniversary of the Light Horse Brigade cavalry charge in Beersheba before departing for Berlin, where he hopes to complete some unfinished business.
I think after all this time, I don't know whether the German people know what he did, and we want to go and talk to them and find out if we can perhaps get a letter of, not protest, but a letter of thankfulness.
And today, a symbolic ritual in the Forest of the Martyrs. The Turners water the roots of growth between the Jewish people and the Australian Aboriginal community.
I just hope that, that keeps us and everyone in Israel, keep that relationship going, and I can see that's growing, and I think that will grow together, and with our people and the Jewish people here in Israel.
Tracy Alexander, I-24 News.